seriously. It is linked to what we wanted to talk today about technology, the role of education and as the fuel for technology and technology development. As a provider of all entrepreneurial energy in America. And so I wanted to focus initially and somewhat on public education, which happens to be a passion of mine and Donna's that we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money working on, but also let you know how it relates to the work you do in various fields that are tied to technology, the use of it, the creation of it, the deployment of it, whatever. Because that was the origin of all of our work, my work in the field of education. My work started in 1996 in California when I was living out there. Some good friends, we got together. We all had a very similar problem. They were running other companies out there that were very dependent on hiring good people like we were, and it was very hard to find talent. You might think otherwise. You might say, well, if you go out to the valley, everybody's out there, it's easy to find people. It's terribly difficult to find good people in Silicon Valley. It's easy to find a lot of turkeys. But A players, it was becoming more and more difficult. We started a thing called TechNet, the Technology Network. Maybe you've heard of TechNet. It's become a major force. It's a lobbying group with technology-related issues, either at the state or at the federal level. We spent an equal amount of time at the state level in California as we did at the federal level. But one of the major pushes, the number one objective every year when we would reestablish our goals and state our mission at TechNet, it was to improve the public education system in America. Technology can only grow as fast as the public education system in America will allow. It provides the people who do the work in these fields, and it's not providing them at the rate and ability and the quality that are needed for America's technology industry to survive and prevail. And so we would work on that. Our first big effort on the Hill was, I remember going around talking to various congressmen how we needed a nationwide test. It's been a very popular item in the late 80s and 90s to say we need a nationwide test for children coming out of school so we could tell where they rank and how different states were doing compared to other states. And it was one of my first real brushes with some of the negative aspects of lobbying on Capitol Hill, namely that they would throw you out of their office. Because they said, well, we're not going to do, most of them, I'll tell you, most of the Republicans, they said, we're not going to do that. Public education is a state issue. It's a local issue. And nobody wants nationwide testing. Well, we worked, we pushed and shoved, and basically we got a compromise introduced in the No Child Left Behind Act that President Bush signed into law in 2001. And that was the origin of a lot of this work we now do, where at least we've developed much better state tests, like the Mississippi Curriculum Test version 2 is now much more aligned with the National Assessment of Education Preparedness Test, the NAEP test, which I'll mention in a minute, the nation's report card. And that's how a lot of this got started. It's also how I got interested in the subject. Worked very hard on some education initiatives out in California that led to some other things. We rewrote the California Charter Schools Bill along with Governor Pete Wilson and some other folks out there. We worked on reducing classroom size in California, extending the number of school days. And as you work into these things, as you know, you get more involved and you learn more and you understand where some of the levers are and how you push and shove in the world of public policy, particularly in an area that is so fraught with mines, landmines, as public education. You see, everybody wants progress in public education, and most of life. Everybody wants progress, nobody wants change. Oh no, you can't have a national test, it's really the state's on it. You go to a state and want to do a state, oh no, it's really the local district. Go to a district, oh, it's the school. So many ideas like that. Charter schools, yay or nay, up or down, vouchers up or down. If you study the issue or if you work hard in the issue, and I know some of you have, some of you a lot more than I have, you become acquainted with some of the pitfalls. But that's one of the things that holds back the kind of people we need to get out of these schools to fuel the industry of technology. So let me quickly go into what I think we need to do. And do that, I'm going to give you what I think is a great incentive for doing it. Namely, we can make a lot of money if we do this right. You know, you either feel to hope or to greed. I'll take either. My background, as Mayo mentioned, I come out of three different great opportunities, companies that were starting up, not only great companies, but great industries in America. The Federal Express Company started what we now would call overnight express business. It didn't exist before FedEx started in 74, my gosh. Fred Smith in the story of FedEx in Memphis, and his term paper at Yale, and I got a C, and yet he went ahead and did it anyway. Now we have a worldwide company called FedEx. FedEx today employs over 300,000 people around the world, serves 120 different countries in the world, every city, town, and nook in America. And I was in the building of that. First, I was head of systems development, where we developed the big tracking systems and things that they still use today to differentiate their product. And then later as chief operating officer for 9 years, where I was responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business. I learned a lot there. I'll mention that in a second, how it relates to the topic. Second thing, McCall Cellular, which Mayo mentioned, was at the time the largest cellular company in America, started by Craig McCall of Seattle. As president of that company, I was able to see firsthand the growth and development of the cellular business at a time when a lot of people weren't even sure there was going to be a cellular business. We all know the story of the McKinsey study that came out and said by the year 1992, they predicted there would be 900,000 cell phones in America. They were all for one order of magnitude. And that year is when it crossed the 9 million. And of course, they're now well over 2-3 billion cellular phones, one type or another in the world. It's amazing. Great opportunity. Created a great company, created an industry. We were part of the creation of an industry. There's certainly many others involved in it. And that industry today employs millions of people as well. From nothing. Other than a big idea right under people's feet. The overnight express business, the cellular telephony business, and the third great fortunate experience of mine being executive in the building of another company that was instrumental in the creation and the employment and the development of the internet industry, and that was Netscape in the mid-90s, where we were very proud of a lot of things. We were the fastest growing software company in history. We had the most software releases of any company in history. We were the fastest revenue growth company in history. I mean, those are just nice things to start with. Because we had caught something that was already there, under the surface. We had caught a tiger by the tail. It was right under everybody's feet. Same thing as at FedEx, same thing at McCall, same thing that you can hook everybody together. Networking. The power of a network is exponentially greater than the number of endpoints. It's actually not exponentially, it's n times n minus 1 is actually the way they value the power of a network. A network's of no value if there's nobody at the other end, right? We learned that at FedEx. If we pick up packages in one city and there was nowhere to go, we wouldn't get many packages from the first city. It's kind of obvious. But what's not obvious to people is as you add endpoints to a network like that, it creates more business coming out of your origin, because all of a sudden they got new cities to send things to, and you got new customers who weren't even thinking about using your service until, oh, now you go to Virginia Beach. Well, gee, I got a plant down there, so I'll start giving my business. That's the power of networking. That's the power of Facebook. That's the power of Google. That's the power of Groupon. Networking. The most powerful thing going on today in the world, both from a social point of view and from an economic point of view, and from a lot of other point of views, some of which are not terribly friendly, because it brings both its rewards and its pitfalls. So my background being networking, finding networks that are right under your feet. Well, there's one right here in Mississippi. We talked about it at the Hobnob thing last week. Public education. Everybody talks about public education. Oh, we talk about it. Politicians run on it. Oh, I'm for public education. I'm for little children. Have you ever met anybody that wasn't for little children? Huh? It has a nice, warm, soft, fuzzy touch to it. The problem is nobody wants to spend any money on it, spend the time on it, or fix it when it's broken. Because you know what? It's very hard. It's an easy thing to understand. It's a hard thing to fix. We'll talk about that for a second. But lest you think we're not making progress, from 2005 until this past spring, June, ending last year's school year, Mississippi school children 4th grade reading scores grew faster than any state in the nation. Now, other than the people who were at Hobnob last week, how many of you knew that? Faster than any state in the nation. In fact, they grew twice as fast as the national average. And the most comforting and the best part of it, they grew faster in our African American, poor, underprivileged children on free and reduced lunch programs, than they did in the rest of the group, narrowing the gap that has existed for over 100 years. And that's wonderful. And it became about because a lot of things were done. Focused by the teachers, the MCT2 test, a lot of new ideas in coaching and teaching and the principal core and things that we were all trying to do. Put together new ideas and develop more effective classrooms. And that's the part of the program that is underway, the effectiveness side of it. You know, in business, you've got two things you work on all the time, effectiveness and efficiency, right?